Hello, welcome to St Mark's Bitesize. The point is it's a little bit more concentrated in case you weren't concentrating on Sunday in church or you couldn't make church or whatever. Let's face it, nobody watches the whole thing on the website, so we're going to boil it down to 5 minutes or less. So here's what you missed, here's what you need to know, here's what is going to change your world. That we've been carrying on looking at the Holy Spirit, the bit of God that is alive and present and active and with us the whole time, and which moves God from head knowledge to heart experience and to understanding Him better, which makes church more than a book group, which gives us faith and confidence in our faith. So we've been looking at the Spirit for a while, and if you've missed any of the episodes, you can go back and check them out. But we started with this ancient prayer that people would say at the start of worship, to say, the Lord is here, His Spirit is with us, to kind of lift your eyes off your shopping list or off your Facebook profile or whatever it is that is occupying your mind, to focus on the fact that God is here. And then we said that He's not in a box. He's not contained by any of the things that we like to contain Him. He's not in a Christmas box. He's not in an emergency box. He's not contained by my understanding of what He should do. He's not in a fairy tale box or a religious box. He says the Bible is like the wind. He blows wherever He wants to, and you might be able to predict it, but you can't contain it or control it, just like the wind. God can do everything and just might do anything, and it's usually often outside of our expectations. We've looked at how He doesn't condemn us but calls us to a relationship with the Father, how He welcomes us, how He gifts us and gives us abilities and dreams and desires and unique gifts each, at how He guides us and helps make decisions. We've looked at how He actually does stuff. And that's hard actually in our life, because we kind of know that God can do things, but that's kind of often just head knowledge, and we think, but it doesn't happen in my life. And so last week we had this little earworm repeating a line from a guy in the Bible who brings his sick son to Jesus, and Jesus says, what do you want me to do? And the guy says, well, if you can heal him, heal him. And Jesus goes, if? And the guy's like, whoa, I didn't mean if. It's like, he says, Lord, I do believe, help me with my unbelief. And so that's where we were picking up from this week. Lord, I do believe that you can do stuff. I do believe that you could change my family. I do believe that you could heal this illness. I do believe you could help in this situation. Honestly, I do, but I just struggle with unbelief. So would you help me with that? There's this story of two disciples saying to Jesus one time, Jesus, Passover is coming up, big celebration, big meal. We'll sort it out. Where would you like us to make preparations? And so Jesus says to them, go ahead of us into the town. We're going to get there in a day or so. Go ahead of us, and when you arrive in town, there'll be a donkey, and you'll see the donkey, and then walking past the donkey will be a guy carrying water. Follow that guy and go into the house where he goes. Already the disciples are flipping out, because like, what, guys don't carry water? This isn't going to happen. He says, follow the guy carrying the water, go into the house that he goes into, and then in that house, look for the master of the house. When you find the master of the house, say to him, hey, my master says, where shall we make preparations for Passover? The master of the house will say, hey, welcome, lucky you're here actually. I've already prepped everything. It's upstairs in the upper room. The table's laid out. There's napkins folded on the side. You just need to get some drink and you're ready to rock and roll. The two disciples are like, oh man, what a bum deal. We got to nip into Tesco's quick on the way, because there's no way all of this is going to happen. And yet they get to the town. There's a donkey, a guy carrying water walks past it. They follow him into a house. They say to the master of the house, where shall we make preparations for Passover? The guy says, upstairs, it's already laid out for you. Whoa, it turns out that everything God said was going to happen happens, and He had gone ahead of His disciples into their experience, into their day, into the stuff that they were going to be doing. My week doesn't often look like that. I have an expectation that God would be present at church maybe, and I have an expectation that if I am able to carve out time and sit and read the Bible or something holy like that, or light a candle or say a prayer, I have this expectation that God might be there. I have very little expectation that He might have gone ahead of me into a doctor's appointment or into a work situation that I'm not looking forward to. I have very little expectation that He is there to help when the kids just won't eat the broccoli, or when I have to have that difficult conversation with somebody. I have full expectation that He's there with the holy people. I have no expectation that He's there with me and my family. The psalmist, a guy called David, he writes Psalm 139. If you can Google it. It's this brilliant poem. And he says, where could I go from your presence, O God? And the answer, which he doesn't need to write, is nowhere. So he carries on going. If I go to the highest point of the earth, you'd be there. If I go to the lowest point of the earth, you'd be there. If I went to the furthest point I've ever heard about, you'd be there. In the depths of the darkest night of my soul, you're there. In the joy and the dancing, you're there. You hold me and you know me, he writes. So on Sunday what we did is we took Psalm 139, and let's be honest, it's a bit poetic. None of us really today talk about rising on wings of eagles or any of that nonsense. We made a selfie 139. If I go to the doctors for an appointment that I'm dreading, you will be there. If I'm trying to get the kids out the door so we can get to school on time, you will be there. If I'm struggling to meet a partner who I want to spend the rest of my life with, you're there with me in that struggle. If I thought I'd found that person and it turns out it isn't, you're there with me in that struggle. If I'm looking for a job, if I want a job, if I hate my job, you're there in that struggle. When I tentatively press the bank balance, you're there in that struggle. And we just stripped it all back and said, what are we facing this week? Where are you expecting to go? Where are you walking into? What situations will you be part of? What networks will you be part of? What groups of people will you have to have a relationship with? God has gone ahead of you and is already there in those situations, just as he had got ahead of his disciples, mysteriously, like the wind, and fixed things. Mysteriously, he has gone ahead of us. So think where you're going this week, think what you're doing this week, think who you're doing it with this week, and just take a moment. It's like the Green Cross Code. You know, when you learn how to cross the road, you stop, you look, you listen, and then you go. It's the same with the Spirit. Every room you walk into, every relationship, every conversation you have this week, just take a second or two when you get there. Stop, look, listen. Is the Spirit leading me? Is God here? Is he pointing me in a different direction? Is he asking me to say things to people? Is he just giving me confidence in this difficult situation? Is he guiding in any way? And if you don't sense anything, well, just crack on. But if you do, maybe then that's going to give you confidence. It's going to boost your faith. It's going to enable you to be aware of the presence and activity of the power and Spirit of God. And that's the whole ball game. Stop, look, listen, write a selfie 139 if you haven't. Have a great week, and my prayer for you is that you're aware of the presence and power of God wherever you are.